and welcome to the 3-Minute Quran Study, the place where linguistics can be fun. In the last few episodes, we've seen how Alphonse Mingana established that the Quran is full of Aramaic words and expressions. Many decades later, Christoph Luxenberg built upon Mingana's work and developed a methodology in order to systematically comb through the Quran, identifying Aramaic words. Unlike Mingana, Luxemburg also considers the possibility that squiggles, dashes and dots may have been wrongly placed upon their addition centuries after the fact. The result was a holistic approach which can reliably identify Quranic misreadings. Let us examine one example. Here you can see part of Surah 52:20, where the Quran describes what awaits the believers in paradise. According to contemporary Muslim scholars, the first elements of this excerpt translates to, "and we will marry them." This passage ends with the masculine personal suffix, so we know that it is men who will be married. After that, we have this little tick here, which is pronounced as be, and simply means with. So the men in paradise will be married with someone. After that, it gets tricky. The next word, hur, is the plural of white, followed by the supposedly Arabic word in. This word doesn't really exist in Arabic, but Muslim scholars deduced that it must be the plural form of aina, which translates to big-eyed. So the whole segment translates to whites, big-eyeds, which is a grammatical nightmare. So it's typically interpreted to mean something along the lines of ones with big white eyes. In total, this translation now reads, "and we will marry them with ones with big white eyes." And keep in mind that the word them is gendered and explicitly talks about men. Which is why the following expression has to be describing women, as only women can be married to men. Interpreted this way, the grammar works, but of course the description of women as ones with big white eyes seems creative to say the least. Muslims believe that this is supposed to underline their beauty, yet white eyes typically are not a cipher for beauty, but for blindness. Intrigued by both the grammatical as well as the semantic issues of this passage, Luxemburg applied his methodology to Surah 52:20. He rejects the interpretation of in as the plural of aina, as there is already an established plural for that word, namely uyun. Instead, he argues that the entire last part of the verse has to be read as Aramaic. In would then translate to crystalline, whereas hur denotes grapes in Aramaic. And be doesn't mean with, but under. Now the grammatical problems are solved, but the sentence still seems to be off. After all, now we don't know whom the men entering paradise are supposed to get married to. The solution turns out to be surprisingly simple. Since we know the dots to be later additions, Luxemburg deduces that these two dots here and here were placed there by mistake, and he simply removes them. Now the phrase can be translated to, "and we will let them rest," instead of "and we will marry them." With his approach, Christoph Luxemburg found that according to the original text, there are no paradise virgins awaiting the pious men in paradise, but crystalline grapes. Luxemburg, of course, also goes through all the other occurrences of the word hur'in in the Quran, which all support his interpretation. He also analyzes many more passages. In the next video, we will look at some of the surprising results. Until then, thank you very much for watching and see you next time.